Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gullen, hanging out with my buddy and pal who's in, I hope, slightly cooler than we are, Minnesota.
Yeah, it was 70 degrees when I woke up this morning, and the sun is out today. It poured rain yesterday. It poured
Mhm.
rain last night. Parts of Minnesota got severe hail, and there were
Ooh.
15 reported funnel clouds or tornadoes
Oh my
across the
gosh.
state. But as far as I heard, like trees down, some roofs blown up, but no big
No serious
tornadoes,
people hurt or
like
anything like
Tornado
that.
Alley, like Kansas and Oklahoma,
You know,
but we
and
had some.
we haven't had one in the metro area in, well, I say that we had one a few weeks ago on the southern part of the metro area.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
remember a big one coming through Omaha, Nebraska. My aunt and uncle lived there, and I
yes.
was there. I was supposed to stay with them the week after, but their house was destroyed. But then we
Oh,
went there, and the news crew was there, and there was a straw, like a plastic drink straw, plastic straws in a tree, not bent. The straw was not
yeah.
bent. It was not destroyed. It was just in the tree.
Gotta love those laws of physics, don't you?
And it's like no one could figure out how, and a scientist, the guy from the local University of Nebraska or whatever was trying to explain it. But there was some crazy stuff, like a car undamaged just setting on its roof
Jeez.
amongst parked cars that were fine. It's like, how does this happen?
That's
The
insane.
winds are so strong. There was some weird random. That was a huge tornado. It was like a mile wide, and it
Oh,
literally destroyed entire neighborhoods, including my cousin's
oh my
house.
gosh.
It flattened their house. They were in the basement. They ended up being
Wow.
fine and got out. But isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though. I was a kid.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, on to a much more lighthearted
Sorry.
subject. Let's talk about my garden.
Oh, yeah. What's going on with your garden?
Well, we just celebrated Father's Day last weekend.
Yeah. Oh, I was
Um,
there. I
and,
remember. I'm a
and
dad.
happy Father's Day, belated.
Should be a whole
Um,
month, but yeah, we had a day. Go.
okay. Um,
No. My
um,
wife says it's Father's year with you. You've got your own whole year. Every day is Tony Day, she said.
but we got to fix green beans that I pulled out of the garden. And then,
There's nothing that tastes better than food you've grown yourself in your own
yes.
garden.
And we got to pull some potatoes out of the garden and make potato salad out of that.
Wow. Nice.
So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Now I just need for my cucumbers to start doing the happy dance.
What's wrong with the cucumbers?
Well, I've got one plant that is like only producing female flowers and no male flowers. And for those of you that need an explanation about this,
Nope,
the
not
female
on the
flowers have
show.
little baby cucumbers behind them. The male flowers do not.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, as I've told you before, is it because when your plants aren't performing or doing well, have you been talking nice to them? Have you been
Always.
comforting them? You're not yelling at your plants, are
I
you? At the
yell at my
cucumbers?
plants.
Yeah, you're
My
nice to your
plants are my
plants.
friends.
Yeah, you got to be nice to the plants, and then they'll cooperate.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah,
we've got onions that are growing like gangbusters and
that's good.
shallots. I should be harvesting some beets soon. It's
Uh,
been all kinds of fun.
We have a strawberry plant that we bought
Uh-huh.
that's producing strawberries, so we picked some off there, and we have two raspberry bushes we planted last year that are finally coming in. They're great.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I planted 4 raspberry bushes, but only one of them made it for some reason, and I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
they can be tough. One of ours probably isn't going to make it. 2 out of the 3 isn't bad though with raspberry bushes, I think. But
That's true. All
yeah.
right. And now that we have checked in with gardens and
Yes,
about what can
gardens.
happen with tornadoes,
Yeah.
which is why when they tell you to go find that interior room or basement,
Oh,
you
it's a
listen to
major one. I mean, even the winds from a minor one can wreak havoc, but those big
them. Mhm.
ones,
Yeah.
they can really cause a mess. So we're talking though about a mid-year check-in.
We are.
And
We are.
there's
And
good
this is
news, there's bad news. It seems like there's always a mixture of both. I mean, it's been a somewhat of a rough year, right?
it's been an interesting year. My 2025 bingo card did not have a lot of things on it that we've seen. And in fact, as we're recording this, um, Iran and Israel have decided to start fighting with each other,
Oh,
which
that's
has
not
caused
good.
some instability in the market.
Yeah,
It's primarily because Iran doesn't want to abide by the Non-Proliferation Treaty for nuclear weapons, and they
right.
have been trying to get their own nuclear weapon, and Israel is kind of like, not on my watch. So,
Yeah.
just to give everybody the Cliff Notes version of what's going on.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, we'll see gas prices go up, especially if this doesn't resolve itself quickly.
Right.
I am hoping that it does. We all are hoping that it does. Because we don't want to see an unnecessary loss of life or any of this craziness that's going on. And there were a lot of people that, when we went into 2025, they were very optimistic about what the stock market was going to do. They thought it was going to be a positive year for the market, probably not as positive, not as much growth as we had seen in 23 and 24, but still a good year. And then we started all of this back and forth with tariffs,
Yeah.
which put the market into a correction. Corrections within each year are not a bad thing. They
No, they
really
always
are,
happen. We
and they're
have
a part of the
corrections.
business cycle.
Yeah.
They really are. So that kind of set everything on its ear. We are close to where we peaked in February, or at least we were before Israel and Iran started rattling sabers. And what I have told my clients, and if I'm not your advisor, I'm not offering you any advice. We'll just put that disclaimer out there right now.
Mhm.
I think that we are probably going to see volatility in the market probably through the midterm election next year.
Yeah, probably. And I think a lot of folks were talking about that at the beginning of the year, that we knew might be some volatility this year. We weren't
Mhm.
sure. We weren't sure to what extent or what the causes would all be, but people were predicting not as good of a. I think mainly based on the fact that we had two amazing years back to back, where the market
Right,
did
but they
really
were
well.
still expecting 12 to 15% growth on the S&P 500. That has been dialed back significantly.
Yeah, that's not going to happen this year. Yeah,
No, no. And the thing is that I want you to understand, if you're still working, some of this volatility in the market actually works in your favor, because when we go through those correction cycles, if you stay the course and continue to invest, you're buying shares of whatever it is you're investing in on sale. And I know that there are some people that really have, who follow one or two specific stocks, and they trade just those stocks. They have made quite a bit of money this year, buying on the dip and selling on the highs, rinsing and repeating. I don't advocate day trading at all, you
oh
know,
no, trying
especially
to
not
time
for
the
somebody
market
who
and
isn't
day trading.
experienced. Right,
Yeah.
right. And, I have had clients that have needed to pull money out, and they're like, well, when should we do it? And I'm like, I can't try to time this for you. I don't want to try to time it for them.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Well, wait until it's up a bit. Don't pull money out when it's really
if
down.
you can avoid it,
Yeah.
yes.
Don't pull money out in a down year if you can avoid it.
Mhm,
And if you're in retirement, you say, well, I've got to pull money out. Well, if you have a plan in place,
mhm.
and then you're not going to worry about that. You're going to have money you can pull from other than the market when the market's down,
Right.
in most cases, depending
Or
on your situation, right?
or you have a section, you have a segment of the money that is in market based that is in something less volatile, like a stable value account or a cash account. And when you're using that to supplement the income that you need in retirement, then while the other assets in that account are a little bit more volatile, we're not pulling from a depleted asset or trying to minimize that as much as possible.
Right. So I think it's really important for people to understand that never panic. Don't let your emotions dictate what's going on, because we've had a crazy year with a lot going on, like you said,
Yeah.
in the media, tariffs, the war
Mhm.
affecting the market. That's why it's so important to work with a financial advisor. And I have this drop I wanted to play for today.
Okay.
Buckle up, Buttercup. I mean, when we're talking about market volatility, I just have to work that in there. You
You
know that,
have to
Barb.
work it in. And I mean, it really is, sometimes the market is a roller coaster of sorts. And, over time, it always trends up. Sometimes we're like on the kiddie roller coaster with the little dips and ups and downs. And other times it feels like you are on the Orient Express, was one of the roller coasters at Worlds of Fun here in Kansas City. It has been decommissioned for quite some time, but it went upside down 4 times and
Wow.
started out with this really steep climb and this really big plunge. Um, and my dad says that the first time I got on a roller coaster with him, which was not the Orient Express, ironically, I think it was called the Tornado and was in Iowa.
Sure.
I looked at my dad when we got to the top of the hill and started going down, and I was like, "We're gonna die." So I'm not a huge roller coaster fan.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and I am the one sitting here guiding people, telling them that when the market does these crazy things, that it's part of what goes on, and that, the institutional investors are banking on the smaller investors who get emotional and decide that they need to get out. And that's when the institutional investors swoop in and make a whole bunch of money.
Yeah. There you go. That's and that's I tell you, you don't try to do it on your own. Don't try to
No.
time the market. Have a plan in place and ask a financial services
Mhm.
professional, someone like yourself. And Barb, before you can answer that, you have to get to know them and where they're at personally to
We
make
do. We need
sure.
to find out what their risk tolerance is, what their goals are. A lot of people have been putting money into certificates of deposits and savings
Yep.
accounts the last couple of years because as interest rates came up, those were finally paying a decent interest rate.
Yep.
However, there's speculation that the Fed will cut interest rates probably in September. And as the Fed reduces that interest rate, the federal funds rate, the interest rate that you get on your savings accounts, on your CDs, on your money market accounts is also going to go down.
Yeah.
So it may be the time to take some of that money that has done well and, working with a fiduciary advisor, see if there's someplace else where you can put that money and help it keep working for you, and see if you can continue that rate of return with a different tool other than just a plain old savings account or money market.
Sure. Yeah, and there are a lot of options out there. You don't want all your eggs in one basket. This is
No.
why, as you get close to retirement and especially are in retirement, you don't want all your money in the market, but you do need growth. And I know that you've talked about all the various options, but you have to look at where your retirement income is going to come from. And if you're in your working years, you're right. These downturn in the markets, look at them as an advantage. If you're dollar cost averaging your way into the market, in other words, you're putting money in out of every paycheck through a 401k or an IRA or contribution.
Mhm.
If you're doing that, market corrections are great because you're buying low.
Mhm.
And the object of the whole thing is to buy low and sell high and
That
not
is the
panic
name of
when
the
it
game.
drops. You don't panic and sell.
Right. And it's hard not to get emotional when you see that kind of stuff going on in the market.
It is. Agreed.
Just like, for anybody out there who's a parent, sometimes it's hard to see your kid going through one of those life lessons that they need to learn.
Yep.
And sometimes you've just kind of got to sit back and let them experience some of those consequences while they're still under the umbrella of your safety, so that it's a little bump and not life altering.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to, you could derail your retirement pretty quick by
Oh,
making the wrong choice at the
and by
wrong
making
time.
the impulsive decisions.
Yes, that emotional decision.
So,
So, the year looking back, we've had some ups and downs. It sounds like you're predicting some ups and downs, at
I
least with
think
the
we're still
market.
gonna yeah, I think we're still gonna see some of that volatility. I think we'll end up with a positive year, but I don't think it's gonna be a huge positive year. Um, I do think that, a lot of things are going to hinge on us actually getting ink on paper with a trade deal with China. We have talked about how they've got a tentative agreement, but nothing has been signed yet. And all of that has taken a back burner in the news cycle to the conflict that's currently going on in the Middle East.
Yeah.
There are definitely more positives than negatives going on as I'm looking at things. But that doesn't mean that you just throw everything back into the market and Katie bar the door. That's what you're going to do. You want to work with an advisor to find out what makes the most sense for your circumstances and your situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's really important that people understand you can't just do what your neighbor suggests or your
Right.
coworker or somebody at your church suggests. You have your own goals, needs,
Hmm.
time horizon. Everything's different. You need your own plan in place based on your situation, and that's what you do for your people you work with, your
Yes.
clients, and you've helped so
Yes.
many people here in the community, Barb. So I just want to stress that. And looking ahead, I mean, really, the way to prepare is again having a plan, making sure you have some money that's safe money,
Hmm.
not all in cash, but maybe that can keep up with inflation. And that's the trick,
Right.
isn't it?
Right. And there are a lot of people out there that like to handle their finances themselves. But as financial professionals, we have access to products and tools that the individual consumer can't get directly from certain companies.
Right.
And so working with an advisor doesn't mean that you are giving up control. It may mean that you are actually broadening your investment horizon and giving yourself the opportunity to have access to a whole lot more information and many more products that can work to help you achieve your goal.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. And achieving your goal is the bottom line. And
Hmm.
so before we go, Barb, how can our listeners out there achieve their retirement goals and get their plans in place right now, no matter where they're at on the journey? There's no time like the present, right?
There is no time like the present. The best time to start planning for retirement was 10 years ago. The second best time is now.
Yep.
And they can always reach out to us at our website, bgwealthmanagement.com, or call us at area code 913-553-6222. And for those of you listening, let's see, when will this show air? I'm trying
Uh,
to think if it will air before or after June 25th.
it will air after,
It will
probably.
air
Yeah.
after. For those of you that joined us at our Wine, Women, and Wealth event,
Yes.
we were glad to see you. But, regardless of whether or not you choose to work with our firm, do yourself the favor of getting the input and advice from a fiduciary advisor who can help you see things that you might not see because you're looking at the trees and we're looking at the whole forest.
Yeah. Sounds good. I think that's great. That's a great analogy. You've got the box lid, and they're just looking at all the pieces, and
Yes.
you need that picture on the box lid in order to know how to put it all together. So, Barb, I think that's great. Again, for our listeners and viewers out there, go to bgwealthmanagement.com. That's BG, as in Barb Gullen,
There we go.
wealthmanagement.com, or call 913-553-6222. Barb, great show today.
Thanks, Tony.
Listeners and viewers, that does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Gullen.
We'll see you soon.